Being here today, just a couple housekeeping items. If you're a farmer or a rancher or a grower or in the ag industry, please fill out one of these before you leave. Give us some information about what your needs are and such. Also, there's a sign-in sheet. If everybody can sign in, so we can have their contact information, so when we get the word out, we can share what we know with you. So. We're going to kick it off. I'm Greg Scott, the County Administrator for Suwannee County. Appreciate everybody being here today. The biggest goal today is make sure we listen to the folks in the audience and let y'all ask questions that you might have. Let me do a little intros up front. We got Eric Musgrove with the clerk's office. He's in charge of everything today here. We got Leanne Button from Representative Shove's office. We've got Stephen Huddleston from Corey Simon's office, Senator. We got Commissioner Don Hill, Commissioner District 1. We've got Erin Jones. I'm sorry. She's our livestock foliage agent for Suwannee County. And we got Jimmy Norris with the Economic Development Office. So again, today we want to better understand what your needs are, concerns that you might have. We know what we can do for you. I know we started off a few weeks ago with a meeting with Mr. Simpson, or Wilton Simpson, and Ag Commissioner, and appreciate Larry putting that together for us. But we're at phase 2 now of trying to get some more information and moving forward. So we understand that ag is a huge part of Suwannee County. It's about 35, 36 or more % of our economy. That's impactful. We feel your pain. And just know how much we appreciate what you do every day. Some of the first guys out there and gals out there helping our neighbors were the farmers, opening up roads and making things better for everybody else during the storm. We appreciate what you've done. Sometimes we forget about all what you do, but that's 800 jobs, over almost $900 million worth of revenue that comes to the county because of what you do. $60 million of tax revenue that goes through you. Probably the most important part is like 97% of our farms are owned by local farmers, just family farms, and that's important. So you know the numbers, you know what you do, and we appreciate everything. I'm going to let Erin take over and do an intro of the video we're about to do, and kind of lead us through the talking points, and let everybody have a chance to speak as they wish. So, Erin.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Like Mr. Gregg said, my name is Erin Jones, and I'm the livestock agent here for Suwannee County at the UF-IFAS Extension Office. Ever since the storm has hit, I've been out with several of our other colleagues as boots on the hill, trying to make sure that you guys have been taken care of. Agriculture is very near and dear to my heart. I come from a family farm in Gilchrist County, and I'm a 5th generation, so I understand the livelihood and the importance of agriculture as a whole, and the importance for you all sitting in this room. So from our aspect, I've worked really hard on our end to make sure that our voice is heard. I know, we've had a lot of loss, and a lot of people don't realize that because a lot of our agricultural sector has been overlooked from media attention from that aspect. So anything we can do to try to push forward to ensure that our farmers and ranchers are taken care of on a federal and state level, I'm here for it. I'm ready to help and fight for you all. We have a short little video that we would like to air. Miss Kelly All from the IFAS Research Center has been working with some of our local entities. I know Jacob Williamson, I'm not for sure where he's at in the room, but he's been very instrumental as well as trying to help collect some of the footage that we have, and Kelly has graciously took her time and put this video together for us to kind of see some of the impacts that we've had. So we'll go ahead and begin with that and air the video. All right, thank you. Thank you for the team that's put that together. As you can see, you know, we've had a significant damage and impact, and a lot of people don't really realize that. And that's what's brought us here together to see what kind of information we can get from you all to quantify our data as far as, you know, what our resources are needed, what our immediate needs are, and how we can help you all. I know there's a couple individuals I've asked to kind of give a recap. I know Mr. Wesley, if you want to talk about some of the poultry information that you may have to share with those individuals in the room.
Wesley Wainwright. I'm sure y'all have all heard. I've said this little thing a couple of times already, but I start out always, and I'm going to continue to say I'm one of the fortunate ones. I'm not out of business. You know, I'm going to rebuild and keep going. The problem that the poultry industry, and let preface this, I don't speak for Pilgrims. I don't speak for any other poultry producers. I can share my experience. I know that they're experiencing with insurance. Some years back, NOAA drew a line across the state of Florida just north of 10, and that allowed insurance to leave the state using statistical models. This is the first time that we've had an event that destroyed poultry houses to this degree. Up until, and Gold Kiss Pilgrims has been in, that plant's been in operation since 1967. 1,500 employees out there now. Up until this year, maybe a dozen houses over these decades have been destroyed by wind. So this is the first event that we've had, but I'll tell you this, and I've been in business with my dad now for 49 years almost, and up until 5 years ago, we had insurance every year. We always carried wind insurance because that's our responsibility for our business. Don't mind it, no problem. Even when the rates went sky high, and this is, again, I'm sharing the same story that every poultry farmer can tell you. Huge amount of money that goes into insurance costs. Up until a few years back, companies pulled out. Lloyd's of London was the last one that stayed. When they pulled out, there was nothing. I've approached Ted Yoho's office some years back. I went to Tallahassee with my insurance agent, shared our dilemma, and in order for this plant to stay in operation, they still have to have poultry houses built or maintained, and we're at risk out there with no wind insurance. And so there's a lot of families impacted. Again, 1,500 employees out there, not counting contractors, out here supplying poultry. But nevertheless, the fact remains is that there's been no options for us as far as wind protection. I threw out the idea of maybe something along the lines of some type of crop insurance, because we know we're not going to get insurance companies back. That's done. That ship has sailed. We're going to be left here to just contend with what we've got. Unfortunately, on the national level, FEMA or SBA does nothing for agriculture operations. So we don't stand alone in that. That's all agriculture. Dairies, livestock operations, cropping operations. There's no FEMA or SBA assistance for those, period. Our only help that's available to us is to work through the Farm Service Agency and the United States Department of Agriculture. So with that, what we've been trying to do, and excuse me, I say we, but the ladies that's been involved in trying to gather all this information, and excuse me, the gentleman as well, Robin and Jacob, is that to get the information to you guys, to go to Washington and try to get some assistance via the Farm Bill, some kind of something, whether it's, you know, I don't mind low interest loans. I mean, I hate to go back to the bank for 9% interest. I'm going to do everything I can to not borrow money, period, but there's a lot of folks that are going to have to borrow money. And so the opportunity to do so via either SBA low interest loans or even grant dollars that might be available through FSA, you know, those are great. You know, I don't think there's any farmer out there that's looking for a handout. We just want to get back in business and do our thing. I think they all pretty well feel that way. But as far as the poultry goes, again, I don't speak for Pilgrims. There's been a lot of losses that they feel corporately. But going back to the individuals, I've heard about 100 to 125 poultry houses that are affected. I've got 18, and 9 of those are out of production right now, and they will be for several months. So I'm losing income, and I've got families to feed that work on my farm. So I mean, it's not just individuals we're looking at. We're looking at families. You take the paper mill over in Perry. I mean, that's I don't know, 3 or 4, 500 jobs. I don't remember. Jimmy, you remember 500 something jobs. 525. That's not just 500 individuals. That's 500 families impacted, and that's not counting the contractors at all. And you know, y'all understand and know how the economic web works and how it touches everything. We got an agricultural community, and everything is impacted. All the way down to the restaurants, the hair cutter, you name it. I mean, everybody's going to be affected by this. And just by virtue of it being agriculture, again, I hate to keep pounding that point, but there's nothing out there for agriculture. There's not. I mean, FEMA helped us with our house. If you had a house damage, God bless you, and fortunately I didn't. You know, FEMA's there to help in those kind of situations, or we've got homeowners insurance to help us with that. But otherwise, we're dependent on our own selves to get this taken care of and get back in business and run with it. And if the Farm Bill, by virtue of what they can accomplish there, I don't know. I know that when the hurricane went through West Florida 5 years ago, there's people still struggling with that, agriculturalists. And I'm sure y'all are well aware of that. And so, as we shared a couple weeks ago in this same room with Senator Simon and Wilton Simpson, and thankfully, Mr. Simon was right on track with. We've addressed things, we've learned things, and we don't want the same things to be repeated. We want to make sure we move forward and do a better job the next time. I'm the same way. What's happened has happened. If we're going to learn from and improve and try to make better the situation that comes on in the future, we need to address some of these concerns that affect farmers and being able to protect their businesses, because that's exactly what it is. It's a business that takes care of their families in this community. So,
I have one quick question.
Yes.
Just as an estimate, what do you think one of those chicken houses would cost to build back?
It varies quite a bit. It depends on what type of house. A pullet house or a breeder house is going to be, the last numbers I heard was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $800,000. My broiler houses, the size that they are, would cost me about $450,000 to $500,000 to rebuild that house. Again, I haven't lost any houses. I've got some considerable damage. We're just going to we're going to repair them and get them back up order. So I'm not looking at that, but it's in its entirety. It's a pretty hard hit with 9 houses damaged. Yeah, it's going to be tough. But I'm not complaining. I mean,
Yes,
that's just the fact of the matter.
I know a lot of our producers have lost several of their houses, and just thinking from Build Back with FSA and the NRCS programs, there's nothing structural related in any of those programs, and just kind of put a figure with that
Some of these poultry farms aren't coming back. And as I was sharing with Greg earlier and people that know me, this is home. I love it. And what makes this area home and what makes this country or our area great is our agricultural community. That's the values and culture that's built into here, and that's what makes this such an attractive place for people to come and live. It's not the jobs, it's not, there's a lot of things that make it attractive, but in my belief, it's the people and the culture that we have here, and it's agrarian. And if this is just one more step in the process of pushing agriculture out of this community, and we need to be able to protect that. If we're going to protect that, we need to have programs in place that can help us sustain and maintain our businesses. And as y'all know, there ain't none out there right now.
Thank you, Mr. Wesley. Dee, would you like to report on some of the crop damages that we've had?
Appreciate you asking me to report today. I wasn't planning on it, but I feel like I have enough to say with as much as I've seen over the last couple of weeks that I can give a pretty good snapshot. The video pretty much says it all. That was really well done. Those counties captured what's going on in the hardest hit communities, the hardest hit agricultural communities, Hamilton, Lafayette, Suwanee, Madison, with most of it being in Suwanee. We are a large county. There's a lot of population here. I think that in the northern part of the Suwanee Valley, Suwanee County has the majority of agriculture here. Like Wesley said, I would reiterate those sentiments on folks will not recover. 24 hours after it occurred, I was able to get around and talk to people and find out what's going on and how I can help. I'm a crop consultant, and I help farmers make management decisions and help them get better yields. I formerly worked with IFAS, with Carolyn and Aaron and some of the folks in the room. So I'm from here, and I know a lot of the lay of the land and the landscape. So that's part of the introduction that I guess I should have said first. But 24 hours after the storm, I've seen farmers that I've grown up knowing my entire life cry, say, I'm not ever going to recover from this, that have owned tobacco production systems. There's 2 or 3 left in Florida. One of them sitting in the room back here that was hit really hard, Jackson Lord. The other producer said that he will not be able to recover from this, and he's one of the other, I could count them on one hand, the production systems and tobacco that are here in our state. I'd say there's, 1,000 acres or less of tobacco in Florida? Probably less than that.
Maybe more. It's grass grows, all that in Madison County.
Yeah, so a little over that, but super, super small. There's not a whole lot of those guys left. But thinking about the economic engine, the poultry community, the row cropping community, that's substantial. And you really saw that, and you heard, I'm not going to reiterate that. Dairies, peanuts in Northeast Florida, we have about 78,000 acres of peanuts annually, plus or minus, depending on the rotation, but that's a solid average number that has been put out by our ag economists from IFAS. When the hurricane hit, we barely had diggers in the ground, the inverters to start harvest. So we have a lot to gather, and the issue, if you go around and you see crops and they look green, they're not healthy. There is something called wind injury that creates situations where the plant, the vascular system, the pegs are not strong and they pull off when you pull them out of the ground. That's a problem. Growers immediately were estimating 15 to 20% loss on peanuts, just because of our experience with hurricanes and knowing what to expect. Hurricane Irma, we had peanut collapse. It was substantial. The salt affected plant health on an aging, senescing plant. There's all sorts of impacts that you don't see until you get them out of the ground and you flip those peanuts, those underground plants up, and you see that. But what's difficult to quantify is when you see all of those irrigation systems flipped over in the field, that means that those fields that we need to harvest are not getting water. They can't spray them. They have to work around the crop, and at the end of the season, there is a huge amount of disease pressure. This time of year with disease, it could mean not getting a sprayer through the field to prevent disease from growing. It may mean not even being able to harvest that crop simply because you cannot spray it, or the area or the portion of the field where that's stretched. So those are issues with harvest. Initially, multiple buying points, the market location where farmers take their product and where they dry them down and they sell them at these local buying points were out of business. They had no power. Their elevators were down. They had no places to store peanuts. And for a couple of weeks, harvest was delayed. And so farmers, the peanuts are over mature at this point. So whether they had wind injury, whether they had irrigation systems down, they are 2 weeks beyond. Some not quite as bad. Just depends on the system and depends on the place where they're selling their peanuts. But extending harvest is a problem. There are all sorts of different logistical issues associated with this storm that's going to impact the peanut industry, period. And I can go on and tell you all the different ways and reasons why, beyond just a direct reason. There are a lot of indirect reasons why that's going to be a problem. That's a lot of acres, like I said, that we are just now starting to get out of the ground. Farmers are trying to figure out which foot to put in front of the other because they have all of these things going on and they need to get crops out. The soybean farm, I work for that grower. That's a complete loss. That field was green before the storm. You saw what it looked like. It had started to age a little bit, but the wind damage just shut the plant down. And I've seen that time and time again. Sweet corn, sorghum flattened, thousands of acres. So these are the immediate income that growers depend on from one season to the next. Outside of infrastructure, stored products like hay that has been removed from the field, but it's under barns. You can drive down the road anywhere in one of those 4 counties and you can see the roof sitting down and rainfall going down into that product that's sitting there that they can't get out from under the barn quick enough. Grain corn in grain bins, probably millions of bushels of grain corn being stored in bins where aluminum, tin, just metal has blown off the sides. The power outage for up to 10 days, 10 days, not being able to blow air through those grain bins, that is a huge economic loss. And a lot of that corn goes to Pilgrim's Pride to feed those chickens. And so it's like we're all interwoven in this community, even among producers, and how we rotate and how we work together. But there's a huge synergy in the community with the tire store and the hardware store and the restaurants and the farm workers that eat, lunch every day. And it's just going to affect everybody. And I don't think that there's a direct where do we go to get support. So, Aaron, what have I missed in terms of some of the things that we've discussed and numbers?
The only other thing I have to add to that, some of our cattle producers have had a lot of infrastructure as far as fencing damages. Some of the trees have been big enough that they've had to pay in crews to come in to clean up just so they can utilize what equipment they have. So they're out money right offhand that they can't even purchase the supplies yet because they've had to pay to get the trees off the fences. As I know some of our producers in this room have also lost livestock due to trees falling during the storm. To add to what Dee said, we've got some hay producers that the hay's sitting perfectly in a spot and the barn's gone and they don't know where the barn's at. So it's some infrastructure issues is really been an issue. And I mean, we don't know where to go, or what to do, or which way to turn. And we know that our agricultural producers are very resilient people, and they've tried to pick up the pieces and patch the puzzle as best they can, but they're still missing some of those pieces. So I hope that collectively together we can put something together, because I think that's the biggest piece that a lot of people don't realize. And I know everybody in this room understands where their food comes from, but on average, our consumers are 3 generations removed from the farm, and a little snip like this, we're 1 generation away from removing ourselves from some of our multi-generation farms and losing those in our community. And that's scary. It really is.
I'll just add that within 48 hours, I was asked to try to accumulate numbers from the producers that I work for, just to get a snapshot of how severe this is. Some of that was in Crystal Court's. I used her survey from IFAS to accumulate those numbers, and some of it's informal from representatives from the poultry industry, and I have that information in writing from them, but it's informal. Within about 48 hours after that occurred, after Idalia came through, it was about $94 million just from the folks that I work for, and those numbers doesn't count timber. And again, like those are the folks that I have relationships with, and there's a whole lot of people that are not included in that. And those were numbers that occurred from sitting down and looking a farmer in the eye and saying, okay, what's the worth of this small lean-to that you have? Okay, that's one type of infrastructure. Then we've got infrastructure like these poultry houses, peanut buying points, elevators, grain bins. You're looking at millions when you're talking about someone that don't have insurance doesn't cover that, right? And of course, FSA programs immediately don't help compensate for that level of destruction. So we're trying to figure out what to do to pick the pieces up and move forward, but that's how severe it was. And we know that as we move forward, how much are peanuts going to be impacted? How much are these crops that are still in the ground going to be impacted? Buildings that are collapsing, that I keep hearing stories that, well, the wind blows and we thought we were going to be able to hold on and just patch this up and continue, or do the best that we can to rebuild what we have. And then we have more and more situations where infrastructure is collapsing and things continue to snowball. So I have no idea if those numbers are going to be the same. But the way that I did that was talking to people and pinpointing buildings and pivots. Pivots have the value is different depending on whether it's a 1 tower or a 10 tower pivot. And so some of these surveys that we accumulate information don't really capture those differences, and I don't know how that information is being conveyed. But I will say that it's just seeing it. If you could ride the roads and talk to people, it's enormous. So I appreciate y'all
One
listening.
thing to add, Dee, I think you mentioned the timber, and that's something we haven't really discussed. I think, we're one of the biggest counties that have private landowners that, are holding our pine trees. And a lot of the individuals that have come into our office, they've gotten miscommunication of signals of, do we leave that lay until we can get an assessment, or do we remove that? And I think between what Ms. Carolyn and I had talked about was they have about a month before disease pressure or pests move into that. So leaving that lay and waiting for an assessment is going to put a lot of pressure on their entire crop. I know a lot of them are trying to figure out how to get in and get those trees removed that are down, so they can get in and at least harvest the pine straw to have some level of a cash flow. But that's something that, our timber industry has been significantly impacted as well. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Suwannee County is in the state of Florida, we have over 300 commodities, but right here, we probably have about 60% of those probably represented throughout the county. I would step off to say we're a very diverse ag community, and I know we've kind of touched on a few things, and I believe if there's anybody else that wants to kind of add to from some of the damages that you guys have seen, please feel free to jump in. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to hear from you all what your immediate needs are. If there's something that we can help y'all, I know, like we've discussed, the FSA programs and RCS programs, they're there, but they're probably not the best fit. I know Small Business Administration was kind of the channel that we were getting directed to, but from a farming and ranching standpoint, that's not really where we need to be. And I think we all kind of understand that, so we've kind of brought you guys here together. Like Mr. Gregg said, there's the forms that we've kind of put together to ask. One of the big questions that we would like to ask, if there's structure damages, what's your estimated loss, but also what is your estimated rebuild? Because we understand that, for example, a $100,000 hay barn 5 years ago is probably going to cost you about $300,000 to build it back this go round. So please quantify that data on here. We want to hear from you all. But if there's anybody else that would like to add anything, please feel free.
I'm Ken Weaver. I represent the North Florida Cattlemen's Association, which is under the Florida Cattlemen's Association. I live here in Suwannee County. We appreciate Senator Simon coming this last go around. I've contacted him and spoke to him personally. And also Representative Chuck Brannon, who used to represent this area and is very helpful also. I haven't spoken to your guy yet. I haven't met him yet. Also Senator Rick Scott. The Cattlemen's Association, our cattle guys, we need help. We have got trees. For instance, my place, where I lease and have cattle, I've got 30 trees from this big to where 4 of us can't reach around them over fences. The only thing holding these cattle in on most of these places here in this county is the trees and the branches. It's going to take months not only to clean the debris up for grazing, to get these trees out, but also to get them off the fences where we don't have cattle roaming everywhere. Larry, how long have you worked on yours now? Every afternoon. And you're still not even close. All of us that are cattlemen, we need some help. And as Wesley Wainwright said, we get no help from FEMA. We get no help from the federal government. Maybe SBA will help us. They don't talk. So when I went down to NRCS the other day, the farm home thing, I said, did you get Aaron's survey? No, we don't talk with IFAS. We don't talk with state entities. This is separate. So they're doing their own survey. I mentioned that there. And by the way, D. Townsend Broughton, Aaron Jones, thank you. Larry Sessions, for all that y'all have done to bring this into the forefront. Y'all have done yeoman service to bring this out. There are people hurting in this community. People are going out of business because of it. Wesley talked about it. Ms. Touchton, she lost all her chicken houses. It's going to take hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. She can't repair hers. They're on the ground. They're gone. It's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars for him to repair his. And that's just one. We all depend on this. Chief Davis lost his hay barn. The value of that $75 a roll hay, there was a 400, Chief?
At least.
Now that value's down to $40, $45 a roll because it's no longer covered hay. It's no longer dairy or horse quality hay. Equipment losses where barns fell on it. All of that. This is huge. What we elect our leaders to do is to lead, is to come back and help our citizens. Now, we realize this is state government, but our state government and Commissioner Simpson, we need to work with our feds. We've talked to Cat Cammett. We've talked to her aide. We've talked to Rick Scott. We need help. We don't need lip service. We need help. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to just add, I have been in contact with the water management district yesterday, just over the pivots, because I said I have chicken houses, we got 100 head of beef cattle. The pivots that are in Swanee County alone are 1,397. They're not right as of yesterday aware of how many that are damaged. I know we live out towards Down Park. We rode around with side-by-side one afternoon and we saw several. So the impact on pivots are probably tremendous. The fields they irrigate, just as Steve Broughton said, are devastated, but keep in the back of your mind, no farmers, no food. And America relies on us as farmers. And we got a hard road to drive down and come back. And I don't want, as a farmer, I don't want Mother Nature to throw my talent. I want to throw it in myself. And farmers, I tell my friends farmers are the stupidest people God put on earth, because we constantly get hit by Mother Nature and are devastated. And what do? That as soon as the weather clears, we're out there rebuilding, fixing, trying to repair, trying to make sure our cows don't get on the road, chicken houses, trying to at least get them some sort of comfort to get them through to when they're picked up. And we rebuild and we wait for the next devastation. If it was a company we worked for and it happened to our company, we'd just tell the boss, here's our keys, man, I'm done. But we're resilient and we keep coming back because we don't want someone else to make our decision to retire or to go out of business. We want to do it ourselves. And I do really beg you to try to get something for us. To go in debt, to rebuild, and then we have to work those additional years to pay that debt off, it's going to be hard, especially older farmers like some of us. And I just try to hope you all can try to get something for us. We don't mind, we don't mind a loan or something like that, but like, Mr. Wainwright said, SBA, we're not considered a business. I went through this several years back with that other storm when we had some roof damage. And they flat said, I'm sorry, you're not a business. That's well, you fooled me. But anyway, we've been up here farming almost 33 years. And like I said, I want to go out on my own, not from Hurricane Idalia. And I just beg y'all to try to get us some help. And I appreciate y'all being here.
I just got two more comments to make. I was reminded of one a moment ago, but then Lynn just reminded me of one also. We can't get a loan without insurance either. Banks ain't going to loan us money if we can't buy an insurance cover to cover their mortgage. Second thing is, and this is the insult to injury that just rubs me. 5 or 6 years ago, I found out in my trip to Tallahassee, by virtue, and I've known this part now, and by virtue of your homeowner's insurance, everybody contributes to the state disaster fund, where citizens can, if citizens insurance has catastrophic losses, they can tap the legislature, hey, we need some additional funding to make sure we stay solvent, and that's fine, that's all great. Citizens will not write any farm insurance, period. You got a barn, you got a cow, you ain't getting insurance from Citizen. But I'm contributing to that fund that they can tap into and not help me.
If you don't mind, I'd like to, yeah, definitely, yeah, absolutely, come on.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
sorry.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Stockholm here. My name is Windsor Lozano. I'm a chicken farmer. I own a chicken farm in O'Brien. Bought that farm back in about 2015 or so. Initially, the farm had 3 houses. Now it's got 6. I had to get a loan to build the additional 3 houses that I built about 2 years ago. I echo everything that Mr. Wainwright and everybody else has said. However, the one point that I want to also touch on is that it's ironic that because of that loan and because of the bank that I have a loan with, I had to get the financing, but yet I can't get my wind and hail coverage was terminated about 3 years ago. So now the bank force-placed an insurance policy for wind and hail that I can't get, but yeah, they can buy it. And I pay $40,000 a year for 3 houses with only $182,000 coverage. So the remainder of the farm has no insurance coverage through my bank. And that $182,000 coverage, the cap on it, is not even enough to rebuild a house that I just lost. So, you know, again, it's ironic that the bank can buy these policies, but I can't buy it. And obviously the bank is selling it to me at a lot higher premium. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you.
Very good. I just thank you for getting up and speaking. That's all I was going to say. Is I encourage everyone to get up and speak today because, you know, the old saying is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, but today I think that's reversed. These folks, we all need to hear from you guys. So please don't be hesitant to get up and speak. And Ms. D spoke to it, and not trying to recap everything that's been said here, but she's right. I mean, probably 40% of those farmers I've seen up there have supported my family in the past. It doesn't just stop when the crop gets, you know, on the truck and going to the store or the produce, but, you know, we were in the parts business for years here, and those farmers made our families live it, you know. And you're right, the restaurants, and Jimmy, you can speak to this, is how this has affected our community and our economic world here. But it just blows my mind. And I got to say, I'm taking a crash course in this. I've been around it my whole life. Never knew what Mr. Wainwright has said, and just gentleman here said, there's nothing for a farmer, whether it be poultry, beef, timber, through FEMA, through USDA, through the U.S. Forestry. I mean, these are the things that just blow my mind. That I know we can do better, and we need y'all's help with that. We do. We need y'all's help with that. And Greg said it. He and I were speaking. Someone said 5 years ago this happened out in West Florida, and they're still waiting on it. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that county. I think we can do better, and I think it starts right here. And a lot of folks in this room I look up to, and I'm gonna lean on y'all for information when I go to Tallahassee, when we have those conversations. And I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about now. talking about making these calls and these visits now. So please get up and speak. I need to know what, I'm taking a crash course in some of this stuff, so please get up and speak, folks.
I'm here representing Southern Pine and Straw and OKT Pine. We have about 600 acres of pine trees.
We need you to go up to the mic, please.
Well, yeah, because we want everybody to be able to hear you, please.
We're trying to record this too, so we can have information.
I'm here on behalf of OKT Pot and Southern Pine and Straw. We have about 600 acres of pine trees out on 76th Street. Have a good deal of trees that are flattened. The other partners and stuff went into a meeting, I wasn't at the meeting, about getting some assistance. They're saying that you have to leave, you can't touch anything in your field, and then you might hear something in January about whether or not you've been approved, but if you touch so much as a pine cone, then if there's any funding, then it won't cover anything. And of course, if you leave all the stuff, you have the disease and the bugs, and then you have no season. The pine straw for next year is falling now, and there's, how do you get it out of the field? I mean, like with longleaf, if you drive the big tractor through to drag it through, you're going to break all the limbs when you go through. Or then, it's a lot of manual labor to get people to drag the trees that are snapped out of the thing. And, of course, you don't get, with like pine trees, you don't get any money other than the pine straw to when you harvest them. So, I mean, it's just a lot of expense. And then, of course, now we had a bunch of fences and stuff too that, it took days and days, and like everybody else, days and days of cutting at our expense to get the trees off the thing so you can get in there just to even assess what's going on. So, I mean, it's unrealistic to expect, apparently they don't know anything about timber. If they're expecting you not to touch it to January, and the girl that was at the meeting's like, well, that's just the way it is. I mean, it was just kind of heartless and, not real about how many acres and how much money that is, and not minimizing anybody else's. But I mean, if that's, your retirement that's sitting out there and it's laying out, and then they're just shrugging your shoulders about, well, just, figure it out. But anyways, that's my piece.
And real quick, who was that said
I
that
wasn't
to
at
you
the
guys?
meeting. There
Okay.
was they went to a meeting and they filled out 2 sets of forms. Now we have some, and I can't remember. They went to 2 different departments, but I could text and find out which the meeting they went to. But I mean
Was that a
it was here in town. I don't know where it was, but I mean,
we can circle up.
I mean, it was it was just an extremely callous response from the anxiety and driving around and just looking at all the loss. And it's just unrealistic to think somebody's going to let the bugs and all the stuff, and you just soon tell me you're not going to help me other than saying leave it there to January. So.
Thank you for sharing.
Hello, I'm Keith Davis. I do just a very minuscule amount of farming. Of course, my rest of my time's tied up here, but everything that these folks are telling you is 100% true. One other thing that has not been mentioned, though, and especially for small-time farmers like me, I have to float fertilize, chemicals, and all this stuff to grow my crops in hopes to pay it off when I be able to sell it over the wintertime. Well, that's gone now. So we have, extended ourselves trying to get through this thing. So not only with the amount of damage that everybody has from their buildings and crops and everything that's destroyed, they've also out the expense to grow all that stuff and no income to come back to try to support that. So that's just another thing for y'all to put on to see, like talking about with the low interest loans or something to help benefit people that's going in the hole trying to make ends meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Hello? Hello? Yes, sir. My name is Greg Halleckman. I am a dairy farmer. I milk 400 cows. Small farm, right here in Live Oak, up by Stagecoach. This is going to be a long recovery. It's going to take a long time. slow. The damage to cows who are producing milk is going to be permanent until they calve back in. So right now, our milk production is way down, but the cows still have to eat, and they eat about the same. But the production's just not what it was. It's not going to be until they can calve back in. That's going to take another year down the road. My barn, my cooling barn, which is important here in our region to have the cooling, especially in the summer. The summer is brutal for dairy farmers. And that wind just ripped all the fans right out of my barn, ripped the wires down. And I can't wait for the insurance. By the way, the insurance is coming today to verify, to see that the claims I made are actually damages. That's going to be a mountain of paperwork on top of the mountain of paperwork. I had to pay out of pocket already for the electrical contractor to come and repair the electricity in my barn. I have a few of the fans that I scrapped parts and pieces of that I got working in there. It's not at full capacity. After the storm, I had to kick all 230 cows out of the barn, out into the pasture, and that stressed them out. They're in that state. I'm just losing production left and right. Trees all over the place. We know about the trees. I'm out there with my chainsaws, and I'm trying to get people. Everybody's busy. The price of firewood is cratered. So what am I going to do with all these trees and just the whole perimeter of my fencing? I just got a lot less trees, probably 18 to 20% less trees, at least the ones that are standing, that aren't too damaged. A lot of the tops got cut off. The pine trees that I planted, a lot of them snapped. I'm stupid enough to think that I'm going to make it come back. I'm just trying to hold on long enough to be getting back on my feet, because I know that there's going to be some assistance, some help out there, but it's going to take a long time. I just hope that the help comes before I can, get back on my feet. That's what I'm hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please, don't be shy. We need this on record. We need to have these discussions publicly, and we need to have these fine folks be able to take this message back, please.
Hi, I'm Glenn Horvath. I worked with ag for many years, and I'm retired now and have a small cattle ranch, and I, like the rest, have lots of trees. And I had to sell my cows because I couldn't keep them in the fence. And but one of the things that bothers me is the legislature, as well as the county, have not done anything to prepare for this. We've done great with utilities. I mean, it's amazing what the state has been able to work with the utility industry to make happen quickly. I mean, because I had electricity in about 5 days, which was amazing. I thought I'd be out for 2 or 3 weeks. But it seems like we'd have learned something from Michael, like we'd have learned something from Ian and the other hurricanes that come, to have something to help ag respond. And personally, I don't need much, but we need something to help those ag producers that depend on it for a living. And it seems like the legislature has the ability to prepare for that, and it seems like the legislature has done very little. I looked at what happened in Michael because I worked with some of those people, and you know, it took forever, 4 or 5 years for it to happen. And it seems like the legislature could do something to prepare, because we know we're going to have hurricanes. It's not if, it's when. And so having some kind of fund that could work with agriculture to keep it going, because as it's been pointed out, food is kind of important to us. And to figure out a way to provide that response to help them keep moving forward would seem pretty creative to me, and something forward thinking. If we can do it with utilities, we should be able to do it with ag. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and everybody being so brave and actually educating us as well, because this is really helpful. This is not your congressman, but we have been working closely with Congressman Neil Dunn, and they did go through Michael. So they did learn a lot from that. And the silver lining, I guess, with the hurricane is the timing is good as we are moving towards session. So I appreciate everything you guys are sharing with us so that we can go back to our bosses and we can get on the floor and we can do some things for y'all. And I just am sorry. I want to say how appreciative I am of your community leaders. They've been amazing, along with your chief of police and your sheriff's department. So I'm sorry for what you guys have gone through, but again, this is helpful so that we can go ahead and take action in the coming months.
It's Kevin Wright. Our biggest issues that we had are pivots, building, and fence. Emailed Stephen, let him know that, so fortunately, pivots are tax exempt. Fortunately, fence supplies last year, that became another tax exempt, but buildings are not. And so that's one of the things that we, in our company, in our 3 counties, we're going to be looking at something in the $700,000 range. We've got over 20,000 square feet worth of buildings that were damaged that we need to be replaced. But something else I hope that you're hearing today is that session starts early this year because of elections, but won't go into effect until July 1st. Nobody can wait. So if there was a possibility of having something that would even be retroactive to September 1st, that would make a huge impression and make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We also have Krista here with us. She's been very active. I know some of you guys have been into the office and filled out your UF impact survey, and she's going to kind of touch about the survey and kind of what that entails.
Yes, I saw many of you in the room a couple weeks ago when we were asking to fill out surveys, and this afternoon we'll release a preliminary assessment. So those are statewide numbers. They're not county-specific numbers. They're not commodity-specific numbers, but we do break things down by hurricane wind speed zone. So you will be able to see what impacted the 6 counties that experienced those Category 3 or Category 2 wind speed zones, and sort of take that as what happened to Suwannee Valley, even without those county level numbers. So again, it'll be released, it'll be public on our website. I shared a version of the report with Aaron this morning. The crop losses that we're estimating at this point just in those hurricane wind speed affected zones are $46.9 to $98.7 million. And what we heard from Dee was that that's just production losses and does not include the types of things that she talked about, like stored inputs. It doesn't include things like the stored harvested products that are not able to be sold now, and it doesn't include that infrastructure damage. One of the hardest things for us is to place a value on that infrastructure when we try to roll it up at the statewide level, and it's because of what she brought up that I can I have estimates of the number of structures that are within the path of the storm, but I don't know what type of structure it is. So it's very hard for me to decide, is it a lean-to or is it a very expensive type of barn in order to value those. There are 3,200 plus structures that have a 450 square foot footprint or more in the areas impacted by Category 2, Category 3, or strong tropical storm force winds. So that extends about from Jefferson County out to Gilchrist County. So they cover 10 million square feet of space. That's not square foot of the entire building. That's just the footprints of the buildings themselves. And again, it doesn't count anything that has less than 450 square foot buildings. So the number might actually be more than that with some of the smaller structures. Those are only agricultural structures. There are 60,000 plus acres in that strongly impacted area that are irrigated by those center pivots or the lateral move systems that we talked about. We have a hard time deciding how many center pivots is that, so we can place a number on that, but it's over 88% of the acreage that's irrigated in this area is irrigated by that type of system, which was severely damaged in some cases by this storm. The buildings, if we look at information from the 2017 Census of Agriculture, they do have county level information on the value of agricultural buildings and the value of agricultural machinery and equipment. So if we narrow those down just a little bit for parts of the counties that were impacted by, again, Category 2, Category 3, or those strong tropical storm force winds, it's $2.55 billion of just agricultural buildings that were at risk to damage. Not all of them were damaged, and we don't know how that compares with what they would be worth today. That's what they were worth. In 2017, I did adjust for inflation. There's an additional $568.8 million of machinery and equipment on those affected lands that was at risk. So that it kind of gives you the upper limit of what we're talking about here. We'll release that report at 1 o'clock today. We do have sort of like a miniature press conference where we will have local, regional, and national press in the room. So we are hoping that it gets more coverage to help with some of the issues where we're feeling like we're our voices aren't loud enough. I think they'll be a little bit louder this afternoon, and we'll continue to collect information so that we can produce county level and try to get some commodity level specific numbers so that if and when any sort of disaster relief comes, then we know which areas and which commodities were hit the hardest.
Any more comments from anybody in the audience?
I just would like to ask one thing. Would it be to your advantage if you got maybe a thumb drive of this presentation to take with you?
They emailed it to us last night. We have
Good
it.
deal.
Absolutely. Appreciate that.
Leanne, is there anything you want to share? Mike? Thank you.
It's hard because what I'm sharing seems like a minute thing for what is needed. However, Department of Commerce, and I know that they've done some workshop and some things in some of the counties, but they do have a program, a loan program, up to $100,000. But that could possibly be something that is needed that could be done very quickly as soon as, and I'm talking with the Department of Commerce, but as soon as the loan is approved and the documents are executed, the full amount of the loan is distributed. So I think you're going to have a better rate, than you would with a bank. So that might be a good first stop. I sent the link to Greg, but I can also help with anybody and direct them to that site to see if that's an option for folks.
Thank you. Stephen?
Just to echo that, y'all sharing this with us so we can take it back and share, as we stated, with session coming up very soon. I know Senator Simon and Rep. Schoaf have been working together, been in contact with Sam Art at the Cattlemen's Association, Mr. Weaver, and I know we're trying to get a count of either uninsured or uninsurable losses so we can have a better idea, because those are the ones that are really going to hit y'all the hardest, which sounds like it's a vast majority of the losses. So please continue to share those so we can pass along the information and try and, help y'all out as much as possible. So thank you guys.
Commissioner?
I just thank everybody for being here today. Thank you guys for, take the time to listen to these folks. Obviously, you see how important it is to our community and how important it is to truly just the livelihood of everyone here. And not just our county, as Ms. D and some of these folks talk about. We got great neighbors all around us that are going through the same thing. And we just need a voice. I'm going to be yelling at y'all. I'm going to be working on y'all. But I said it in the meeting the other night, and I mean this. When the storm went past within the first hour, most of your farmers were the first ones out there clearing the roads with their equipment. They were the first ones out there checking on the neighbors and making sure that, our community was safe and it was taken care of. And I think it's time for us to do the same thing for our farmers. So I get a little emotional about it, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal to Swanee County. So thank you, guys.
Would you like to share some of the fee waiving we've done?
Yeah, that's a big thing too. So you're talking about damage and having to rebuild and things of that nature. We actually came back and kind of re-looked at our policy that we did. We had waived some fees for maybe if you had to pull for getting the electric hook back up. Well, the gentleman said he had to pay for that. And I don't know how we need to look at that if someone has done that, Greg, and wasn't aware of it and had to pay for a fee. If we can,
they can circle back around. We
circle back to that, absolutely. But if you have a total loss, you need a building permit, you need electrical permit, you need whatever. We've waived those fees. I know it's not a whole lot, but it's a little bit. It's a step in the right direction that our county and our board looked at and is recognizing. So I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, and I am going to just brag here for a minute. Someone said something about the cleanup and the electrical being turned back on quickly and things of that nature. I've been here 52 years, born and raised, never seen anything like this. Probably most of you guys can say that, but I am proud of the community and what they've done. More so, our when I say community, our citizens, and then you take that on up into our, our police and fire and rescue and all the neighboring folks that came to help out as well, that stepped in and kind of helped guide us through this, navigate through this thing. Because I'm telling you, I think we would have been lost without that input and that help. But anyhow, I'm just whatever we got to do for these farmers and the timber folks, and I know there's so many different areas to agriculture that people don't understand. And again, for me, I always knew farming, knew all you guys, knew what you did. But when you start getting down into it, like Dee was saying, the planting, and you go, well, the wind blew the peanuts over. Well, what does that mean? Okay, there's a lot more to it, So I don't want anybody to think it's just a farmer, because he lost some corn or whatever. I mean, this is life or death, guys. It really is. And it's the future of Swanee County and the future of these neighboring counties. I mean, it's the old saying, you can't forget who brought you to the dance, and what built this county was farming. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
Ron, is there anything you need to add to the waiving of fees?
Yeah, just as Commissioner Hale had mentioned, we started out with waiving of the permit fees for electrical reconnect, electrical repairs, roofing repairs, and that's been expanded to include total loss with residential structures. The comment earlier, I believe, was maybe associated with paying an electrician, not necessarily a permit. So, okay.
Good. Aaron.
Thank you. Again, thank you guys for being here. And I mean, I've been the extension agent for a little over a year now, and everybody's welcomed me with open arms. So to be boots on the ground and fight for you all, it means a lot to me. I have one other introduction to introduce, and that's Hannah Love. She's our representative for the Florida Department of Ag for this area. So if you have any questions or anything, she's here to visit with as well. But thank you guys for coming today, and I know it's a hard road ahead of us, but we're all in this together. So keep your heads up and let's see where we can go.
Good. Mr. Norris.
Yeah, being in the development office, obviously, you know, we have target industries that we go after. Manufacturing, industrial, but also agribusiness is one of those. You know, when the storm hit, several of us were down there, but, you know, we were in contact with Pilgrims and also with Benderholtz. I mean, obviously, the trees that have been discussed, they need those trees to solve. Benderholtz is putting a new $100 million investment into this community. So obviously there are concerns there. There are concerns with Pilgrims and what that looks like, what it means for the entire community. And then when you talk about Mr. Wesley and I remember when I was over at the chamber when 4 or 5 years ago, and he and Mr. Tillman were talking to me about that insurance issue and going to Tallahassee, and yet nothing has changed, right, in all those years. So our community, while we continue to develop and grow, agribusiness will always be a huge part of that, if not the largest part of that. You know, we also do tourism in my office, and you know, I know for you guys that's a different world, but that has completely been changed as well. So the overall impact is very far-reaching. So we have a lot of work to do, but I think everybody here knows that the ag industry is going to be of the highest priority as we move forward, and it makes you really proud to be from Suwannee County. I can promise you anything that our office can do to try to work with you guys and help. And these guys are professional, that Ms. Carolyn and her staff and everyone, the Department of Ag, all of those agencies. But you guys on the ground are what makes Suwannee County successful. So I definitely feel your pain. I'm not a farmer. I love to get out on my tractor and ride around. My pine trees got wiped out too. You know, they're all on the ground. But that's not my career. For a lot of you, that's your only career. And so I promise you, Suwannee County will fight to do everything we can. We'll be in Tallahassee. And if we got to charter a plane and fly to Washington, D.C., Wesley, I guess you'll go with us. I really do appreciate all you guys, though. It's very heartfelt. And everybody who helped through this storm. I saw a lot of people grab a lot of giddy up and go, and they kept going even when they couldn't go any longer. I saw them lay on the floor and fall out and sleep and try to get up and go again. And that was very eye-opening. I didn't realize what a lot of these agencies do and how hard that is to leave your families and go put community first. But that's what we do. So I appreciate you all.
I also wanted to mention that this coming Tuesday, the 26th, is our delegation meeting at 2 o'clock. Both of our bosses will be here. I would encourage you to come. We will have sign-up sheets in the back, and you can sign up, and we will go through and let people speak. So not only will they hear it from us, but they can actually hear it from you guys as well. So that will help us really encourage them to do what they can. And I appreciate the ideas that you guys are bringing up too. A couple of really, with the tax thing and things like that, those are, so think about those types of things that can actually help you in the meantime and bring those to the table for us. That'd be great. 2 o'clock this coming Tuesday, September 26th.
At City
in this
Hall.
building.
At City Hall.
I'm sorry, City Hall.
Thank you, Larry.
Leanne,
Sir.
do they have a hard timeline after that meeting?
We have nothing after you guys. So.
Because I can foresee that going longer than an hour with everything.
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree. We will be lenient on that for sure.
I'd like to echo everything that everybody said. Sometimes behind the scenes, you don't know things that happen. But before the storm, both the senator and representative was calling us and saying, when you need us, let us know what you need. During the storm, they helped us make things happen throughout that process. We've continued to be in contact with them almost daily at times. In my almost 35 years back in Suwannee County working for the county, I've never seen that level of commitment. We've had some really good ones along the way, but these two gentlemen have really been there to help us through this process. And mentioned to Wesley earlier today, I don't accept what has happened before in other places. To me, that's not an option. You know, our community deserves to work hard and make things happen better for us and the next folks who get hit also. So we're going to do this thing together. Appreciate what IFAS folks have done. Aaron, you've been a rock star. Appreciate Dee, your help. Wesley, always a great voice. But thank you everybody for being here. If you need anything from us, let us know. You know, we're here to help you and serve you. But thanks everybody for being here. Any last comments anybody needs to make? Yes.
I mentioned that we're going to continue to do the assessment through to the final report. So Suwannee County has had a very good response rate already. So thank you for everybody who has filled that out. I did leave additional surveys out front. So especially if you see the preliminary report and think that does not reflect what happened to me, that's why we've gathered additional information. So any additional information that you can give is appreciated.
And it doesn't stop here. Larry's got a meeting set up today, a phone call with the head of USDA over at City Hall. So a group of us are going to be there to talk, see what we can do. Appreciate his efforts and what he's done already. Appreciate the guys who did guys and gals who did the video. Awesome. Thank you all very much. It was a team effort, and I really appreciate everybody helping with that. Anything else, Aaron, you think that we need to cover?
If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to stop by our office. We're here, we're open, we're ready to help you. We're just down the road at the Coliseum, so just come by and see us. Like Krista said, you can bring the surveys back in. We do have a computer set up in the office, so you're welcome to stop by. And I know that was some of the concerns at the very beginning. There's a lot of producers that didn't have internet back yet. So if that's still the case, please stop by the office. So we still have the computer set up, and we have all the resources as far as like the programs from FSA and the paperwork that you can file from that of what is currently available. I know I've been on every FSA conference call and RCS just trying to make sure we have the information. If you did not sign in, please make sure you did. We're going to compile that information as far as your email addresses, and if there's any new information that gets sent out, we'll definitely be able to send that to you all. So be on the lookout, and we'll do our best to make sure you guys are in the know.
Make sure you're filling out the cards also. We need to quantify what the needs are. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate your time. Hearts go out to y'all. And again, if we can help, let us know. Thank you.